Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to the OS World Cup 2019. I am this one guy, joined by Kano. We're going to be bringing you the first of our winners quarterfinals today, and I am hyped. How are you today, Kano?
I'm extremely excited for this match, man. Honestly, you got two juggernaut teams going up against each other this early. Let's get started.
Yeah, we've got on the left, red team, United States. They need no introduction at this point. I am pretty sure they are defending champions, won 3 out of the last 4 OWCs, poised to make another run deep. Meanwhile, on the right, going to be Team Australia. After a rebuild, 4 new members this year on the roster, looking to make a name for themselves after a solid run to, I believe, the quarterfinals last year. So what do you think of the teams? What do you think of the rosters?
I mean, overall, we already know enough about the United States. They have a lot of really, really good players. Also, in a new addition with Airyu this year. As for Australia, obviously, as you mentioned, there's 4 new players coming in. So, bit of a roster change up. And as you can tell, they're also on a bit of a roll right now. They're also riding a high after beating South Korea last week. So, I mean, both teams, these are juggernaut teams, very, very strong teams overall. And, I mean, facing off this early, I think even on this pool as well is probably going to be the most interesting of all things, because both of these teams look really strong on this.
Yeah, they have both looked pretty powerful in the previous rounds. You know, the USA winning both their matches 5-1 over Turkey and over France. Australia going the 5-0 in the first round against Finland, as you mentioned, beating South Korea 5-2 in the round of 16 in what I think was, in many people's eyes, a bit of an upset. I don't know that everyone necessarily expected that win, and they went out and proved those people wrong. And they're going to try, like you said, they're going to try to ride that into this match. But who do you think, if you had to pick, let's say 2 players from each team that you've got your eye on for this match, who do you think it would be?
Well, I think there's already one of them in the lobby by a chance, which would be Vaxe, of course. I mean, they are calling him in for this one. There's been a lot of talks about whether or not he'd actually be playing this round, because usually Vaxe sort of steps in later on throughout the world, and we're currently seeing him here. And I think for the Australian side, someone who's been really consistent throughout the entire tournament and tournaments in general is honestly Jordan the Bear as well. So I think those two players are probably going to be the stand-up players on each side. I mean, we saw Jordan the Bear do some mental stuff on Sankyu Rambo last time with the single tap full combo.
I was gonna say that was one of the most like remarkable plays to see. I wouldn't. That's not the skill set I would associate with Jordan either. And he just came out and he freaked it, man. He sent that one. Really showed off his versatility as more than kind of the aim player that he's normally thought of as. And that was a big part of that win, you know, pulling out that particular map. Which they only had, what, 2 maps in common last week, I think? So not a lot of direct comparison to make, but I think 2 teams with very broad skill sets. And on a map pool like this that has a pretty wide variety of maps, it's going to be very interesting, I think, to see what they pick and ban here.
Yeah, I think picks and bans are definitely something that are somewhat predictable in this match, for sure. I would say there's a few maps which Australia has clear, definite weaknesses on. As for the United States, it's hard to say if they're clear weaknesses. It's more a case of just like things that they don't particularly want to play into Australia, maybe. Some maps which will be a lot closer than others. Because I mean, when you look at the United States, there's just where's the weakness, you know?
The weakness is alt maps. both maps they've lost in the bracket were alt picks. They lost the alternating map in round of 32, and they lost the alternating map in round of 16 as well. So let's just say that's their weakness. Clearly, right? They're gonna just lose every alt pick the entire tournament.
Yeah, I mean, based on the results, it's very clear that that's the case. So we might even see that being banned this time around. The Nathan map taken out.
I kind of thought like maybe they just ban Geta or something. Get that out of here. Can't wait to find out as we see a little 3 mod going on in the warm up. We trying to flex here, or I don't know. It was, I believe 2 maps that they had in common, as I was saying. Like, they had Hard Rock 2 that both teams played, and they had very opposite results on that. That was the map that USA won. 3 FCs had the best performance on that map, I think, of any team last round. Australia, not quite so strong, and that was, of course, Hard Rock 2 being Vajra, the AR, or the CS, 6.5 pick. I believe the other one was Nomad 5, which Australia actually won, but by a pretty small margin. Other than that, nothing in common. So it's harder to make kind of those direct comparisons to say, hey, this is a skill set that favors one team or the other.
Interestingly enough as well, like, that was also Australia's pick in their match. So it's hard to say if that was one of those picks which kind of backfired, or maybe they just had a bad run on it compared to practice. Maybe they're... I would say when it comes to a match like this, they're definitely trying their best to practice. So, you know, they want to at least give the United States a run for their money. If not, try and take the match, of course. I mean, at the end of the day, winning is always the alternative that you want to go for. But when you're facing a team like the United States, it's like... I think they're just so intimidating to everyone because of their performances over the past few years.
Yeah, I think one thing, you know, from kind of having talked to some of these players going into this match, a big part of it is trying to keep the mental upward, you know, stay positive and optimistic going into a match. Like you said, you know, it's easy to be intimidated by a team like the United States where they have all these wins, they have all these badges, they're the defending champions, but any given day, any given pool, you know, you have to be able to know that you have some picks that you can go out and say, hey, we're going to win this. Like, just be confident in them. Give yourself a chance.
Exactly. I think another thing as well is that there's been like a lot of talks between the two teams, a lot of like friendly banter going on in this kind of situation. We've seen the two teams talking about like whether or not Vaxe is going to be making an appearance and all sorts of stuff as well. So like, it's hard to say whether or not the US are indirectly intimidated in a way, like because obviously they saw how well Australia played against South Korea. And the fact that Vaxe is being called in as early as quarterfinals, it's kind of unexpected. He's usually more of like a really, really late game kind of player that you see coming in. But on the other hand, Australia does have the wildcard Lumineers. We've heard a lot about Lumineers in the past, right? Haven't we, Tig?
Lumineers is Australia's answer to Vaxe, is he not?
He is the answer.
He's the one true answer. His power must be unleashed in this match. It's a threatening sort of presence that he provides for that Australian squad.
I mean, he has won previous Oz NZ tournaments before. He is a force to be reckoned with. And I think the United States should definitely fear him.
Yeah, it's like a guy you don't see really in many international tournaments, but he's been this like dominating force in OCE over the past several years. He's looked really, really strong, like you said, in ANZT and such. So it's it's really that wild card that you don't know. It's just the myth, the legend of Lumineers that just kind of it sits in the back of your mind, and it's scary.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll see at least some sort of appearance from him on this grand stage.
No. We have Apraxia on the Australian side. I think he's just Australian now. He's actually just gonna immigrate, right? He's gonna become one of you guys.
Well, I mean, he is from Texas, is he not? Texas is in Australia.
Yeah, Texas is an Australian state. USA captain fraternizing with the enemy. I cannot believe that such a thing would happen. And oh, I know what they're doing. Do you know what they're doing?
It's a spinning map.
Yeah, so there's a bingo. I'm just gonna call it out right on stream for this. There is indeed that's a bingo for somebody, because one of the entries was winning a map on a spinner, and it is inclusive of warm-ups. It's USA just gaming the system here.
Free bingo.
So now, after that wonderful warm-up, we are going to get into the rolls. We'll see if the USA can get a good roll. They don't have toy in. We don't have to worry about any toy rolls. It's going to be... Oh, well, it is going to be Aus. Trans Senpai winning that roll by 12. So they'll be choosing first pick. USA, I believe, is choosing who bans first. Memory serves.
Yeah, it should be the first choice ban for Australia. I think I've been discussing this last time in the matches from yesterday. The fact that we now have 2 bans per team, it's really interesting to see whether or not teams actually want to go for the first ban strategy, because there might be an obvious ban from certain teams, and then they might want to see the other team have 2 bans in a row. So in this situation, it's hard to say whether or not Australia can opt for the first ban.
It looks like USA.
Oh wait.
Yeah, the roll loser chooses the ban order, basically. So.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, Praxi gonna ban first, and gonna choose for the USA to ban first and last. But that is still part of the strategy. And then the pick order, I think it's something we've seen kind of increasingly in community tournaments, is people taking the pick order a little more seriously instead of just saying, oh, we want first pick. You do see more people selecting to pick second, as it does give you that last pick before a tiebreaker if a match goes that long, which can be advantageous to you.
I think the second pick is definitely the favorable choice in most situations because it gives the opponent the opportunity to pick something that either you might have wanted, or perhaps just to break the nerves on something that you might not be as comfortable and sort of, I guess, indirectly expecting a loss on, maybe.
And so let's see, USA for the second week in a row banning Hard Rock #1. So here that's Escape, which of course Jordan the Bear has rank 1 on, is the Hard Rock aim pick. USA is going to get rid of. Australia going to first ban Sonnen, Nomad #6, because nobody can play that map anyway, so might as well get rid of it. Now, as a pooler, I'm curious what the thought process was on Nomad 6, because I feel like a lot of players have questioned that selection. I was wondering if you have kind of the basis for it.
I really wish I did have the basis, but that was kind of a last-minute decision that I wasn't exactly around for. I know for a fact that obviously the map was placed just to be something completely different from the rest of the pool, but I think it went a little too different.
That's fair enough. I don't know. It has felt like a pick that people have been maybe less than pleased with, but it's banned out here, so we will not be seeing it either way. We will await the second ban from Australia. They did ban the AR8 hidden last week. I don't know if we'll maybe see that again. The United States, of course, has several very strong low AR hidden players. Australia, though, typically not too shabby in that regard in their own right.
I have to admit, if there is a map that I think that is maybe outstanding as well, it could also be Heart of Night. So, but as you did say, they are going to be going for the AR8 hidden ban, a bit of a safe target against the United States. Maybe they just don't have the players for it. I know for a fact that they're not the most confident hidden roster, but at the same time, I think when you think of facing the United States on any form of AR8, you don't really want to do that.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, there's a little bit of that kind of idea of, do you ban to cover your own weaknesses, or do you ban to try and get rid of the opponent's strengths? And in this occasion, it's a little bit of both of those, so it does seem a pretty smart ban here. As we go to the last ban from the United States, which I'm very curious what this will be if they ban both aim maps. I have seen at least once a team banning Nomad 1 and Hard Rock 1 to get rid of all the aim. I believe that happened earlier on. But I don't know what else to think this ban might be. I don't know what the United States kind of feel less confident with.
I was definitely expecting the escape ban out of them. It really makes sense to target ban something that Australia is definitely going to be very consistent on. As I said as well, Jordan the Bear is a standout player in terms of consistency. He has had a mental run so far, but surprisingly they're going for over the top. I wonder if this is a case of maybe trying to remove a map that feels a little bit on the easier side and trying to, make this match as interesting as possible by leaving out the harder picks in the pool.
Yeah, we did see Australia playing last week's hidden pick and winning that one there as well. So, maybe United States feeling that was a potential cost pick for the Aussie side and wanting to get rid of it for that reason. Hard to say for sure, I suppose, in that particular occasion. The USA, with their kind of lack of strength, it's hard to predict their bans unless the other team has something outstanding. We wait the first pick. So take a shot in the dark here. If you're the United States, first picking here.
I think they will probably dive into some sort of hidden, or maybe a free mod. I think those two options are probably the best options for them. They may alternatively go for the third free mod, which is Nanatsu Sensakura, seeing as they did ban out approach rate hidden against the United States, Australia.
Yeah, the CS5 AR8 free mod does always seem to jump right out if a team bans an AR8 hidden. But it's going to be Hard Rock instead. It's going to be Hard Rock 2. That is going to be Katanov, which is an interesting one. It's our longest Hard Rock pick. I feel very kind of technically demanding with its finger control requirements and kind of the control aim in that map as well.
Yeah, you've got some basic light tech stuff, and then you've got some light streams involved in this. As you mentioned, a lot of finger control. It's pretty tough overall. And not to mention as well, it is fairly long, so the consistency aspect is there when you're playing this map. Not only do you have to deal with a really difficult map overall, but you have to hold on for as long as you possibly can.
This is one of those maps, and I know Will and I in some of the matches earlier were discussing kind of a lot of the maps in this pool have that sense of really a lack of anything free. There's very often maps in this pool where it never feels like you can let up. You have to stay focused the entire map, especially on the hard rock picks, where you have the higher AR and some very consistently difficult maps. You really have to stay laser focused in, or else you just can lose an entire pattern if you finger lock or miss aim one note of a burst or something.
There's a lot of room for error on a lot of these maps, and to be honest, I think that is what makes the map pool so good for both of these teams. The fact that we could see either of these teams miss at pretty much any point. Might be trading misses throughout the match. Honestly, who knows? But let's get right into it. We're going to be getting into the first pick very shortly. Hard Rock 2, this is a good way to start it off as well. Good song, good map. Seems like Australia is having a little bit of trouble deciding their roster at the moment.
Yeah, I believe word through the grapevine was that Sam, aka Doogity, was having some power issues potentially at his home. So maybe any map that he was planning to play or they were planning to have him in on is now becoming a point of discussion where they have to figure out a new fourth. Meanwhile, the United States looking pretty solid here. Going to have Fiery Rage, Apraxia, Toy, and Idki. Kind of an expected roster for this type of map, I think, for them. While Australia runs Jordan the Bear, Rairiku, Secret Box, and Lumineers. So it's one of the core players from last year with 3 of the new players for Australia in the first map of this match.
We had a little bit of discussion about Lumineers, and here he is going to be making his appearance.
I am ready for the FC, map number 1 from Lumineers.
If there is one map that he would come in for, though, it's definitely going to be something that's a little bit on the techie side for Hard Rock, so it's going to be interesting to see how much he's actually practiced this map and how it pays off.
Somebody, you want to get off on the right foot here with the United States having this as their first pick. Meanwhile, Australia is saying, okay, you guys, we selected to pick second, so this is your guys' best foot forward. Come at us with your best shot, and we'll see what happens as Rairiku does find the first break. So the United States is going to take a small early advantage. Idki, the only player over 99% accuracy. Already taking a bit of an ACK lead, too. This is where we'll see, even in the kind of relaxed parts of this song where it's a little less intense, musically, there are still some tricky patterns, some little difficult aim, those triplets into the kick sliders. So we see a Secret Box, the second break from Australia. So they are already down to just 2 remaining FCs. We're not even just past a quarter of the way through.
2 full combos down for Australia. It's not looking good for them, but it is the United States pick after all. So this is one of those maps where you do have to break the nerves.
And breaking the nerves on Hard Rock Air 10, CS 5.2, that's a tricky way to do it, especially if you are maybe a couple of less experienced tournament players. Lumineers finding a break as well. So just the 1 FC on Jordan the Bear left for Australia. Meanwhile, the United States, still 4 FCs alive, still looking very strong. Idki Silver, 99% accuracy, as well as Toy. United States looking pretty dominant on this. Their first pick, so you would expect it to be something they're very strong on, but halfway through they are already up by about 300,000 points and only growing.
When you think of the United States as well, obviously you've got a lot of solid players as it is, a lot of consistency focused players, but the thing that a lot of teams also don't really mention is that they have such an intense practice regime. They just practice their heart out when it's needed, and this is obviously showing right now with 4 full combos coming in. on a map like this. We've seen a lot of other teams struggle on this so far, so to see them show such dominance on this, it's just mental.
And we do see the first break from the United States. It is going to be Fiery Rage losing his FC, but still 3 alive. Just Jordan the Bear and Rairiku with some combos for Australia. Jordan the only FC. And that does say a lot. United States, you know, you saw as Apraxia finds their second break. This could almost get interesting, but they need a couple more breaks still in the last third here. You see a lot of these guys on some of those dominant community tournament teams, such as Rubber Conquest, and they were known for actually being a team that went out and practiced, and that's something that carried over either from or to or some of both the United States OWC team, where they're a team that does their research, does their planning, does their practice, and they have a plan and a strategy, and they know their lineups and rosters very, very well. And they come into this very tricky part in the last section of this map with a commanding almost 700,000 point lead. And they show that practice is put to good use in the match proper as they go out and just dominate maps. And this is going to be a pretty big win here for the United States to go up 1-0 on their first pick by about 700,000 points. They will look to see a double FC from Idki and Toy. Apraxia and Fiery Rage just one break, I believe, apiece. Fiery with a little troll miss there at the end.
Idki and Toy, very impressive full combos on their side, 99% and 98.6. Jordan the Bear, on the other hand, also matching with a full combo at 97%. Rairiku did have a bit of a slip up at the intro, but managed to recover that combo. Unfortunately, a Secret Box and Luniers were chain missing a little bit throughout the map. Could have been a little bit closer if it wasn't for that being the case, but still, not a bad performance for both teams to begin with. I mean, the United States having 2 full combos and 2 4-digit combos with only the singular miss, and obviously, as you mentioned, Fiery missing at the end there, but I mean, that doesn't count.
That is, that's the United States. You know, that's like you expect them, I think, to come out swinging, and like you said, Australia not putting forth a bad performance at all. Like very, very good performance, obviously from Jordan as well as from Rairiku. So nothing to really like feel bad about there. It's the other team's first pick, and you played it well. They just played it better, and now you've got your own pick, and you can say, okay, we're gonna pick something that we're very comfortable with and challenge you on our pick, which we'll get to see here hopefully shortly. Looks like we have maybe Monkey Atso coming in. Are we getting a speed pick? Maybe a DT here?
Could be seeing Australia opt for double time. It would be a pretty smart choice, seeing as they are very, very strong in it. They did really well in the qualifiers, and obviously in the previous matches we've seen so far from them, they've done very, very solid overall. Going to be getting into Magicka.
As expected, DT number 2, Senya's Magicka, Satellite Frostmourne collab. So it's an older map, got some longer streams at 240 BPM. Under AR10, it's the only sub AR10 DT pick this week. And I think both teams are going to have rosters that will do very well on this. And we'll see how well they hold up their accuracy and their combo on those couple of longer streams, I think, that make up kind of the primary difficulty of this pick.
The longer bursts are definitely one of the challenging aspects of this map, but if you are not too familiar, like if you're more of a modern player, you might struggle with some of the aim and the patterns in this, because obviously they're very old style, sort of around like 2013 to 2015-ish kind of vibes. It's more pattern focused aim than it is just like big jumps and wide angles and whatnot.
Yeah, this is a 2013 map, and like you said, it was much more about these clearly delineated patterns with typically more acute angles, whereas today you see these big, wide back and forths. Very different style in that era. So I think, you know, they'll have practiced this. They had their roster set up, so I think nobody will get tripped up on any of those. But it's easier, I think, to find little micro movement miss aims on this type of patterning as we get underway here. We'll see how the players hold on through those. It's going to be Digital Hypno, Apraxia, Tony, aka Hirak, aka T bracket __ T bracket, alongside Vaxay, making his first appearance in this OWC. taking on Shiroha, aka Dumi, Rairiku, Secret Box, and the aforementioned Monkey Atso. Noted DT player.
Yeah, big roster change for both teams. We actually got 3 players stepping in and out for the United States and 2 stepping in and out for Australia. Typically, we would probably expect Ugadi to be playing a lot of these maps, but as you mentioned, if he's having some sort of technical issues, then maybe that's not going to be the case, which is going to be pretty detrimental for Australia. I would say Ugadi is probably one of the few strong players that they would be dependent on in a lot of these maps. But I don't think finding a 5th should be too hard for them, and they managed to get 4 for this map. So far we're seeing misses from Vaxe, Tony, Digital Hypno as well. Monkey Atso has also dropped. So it's not looking good for the United States this early.
Yeah, this is a bit surprising from them. I would not have expected to see this many breaks early on, but Australia, meanwhile, 3 full combos still intact, and this is not a long map. It's just a bit over 2 minutes, 2:20, I believe, and USA is falling quite far behind. Australia is just going to push this advantage with that 3-way. They're up 200,000 points now. A little bit surprised, but surprised the USA's performance, not surprised by Australia's performance. As you said, we were talking before, very solid double time team, and they're showing off that skill here. Second break will come in from Dumi, but Rairiku and Secret Box both holding on to the FCs. USA building their combo back up, but I don't know that there's going to be enough time unless both of those FCs from Australia that are remaining find breaks in the last quarter.
And despite seeing a couple of chain misses from Shiroha and Monkey Atso, if they manage to hold on to their combos as well, they should solidify this victory, but you do have Digital Hypno almost matching Apraxia after that early upset. And then Vaxe is also building up a 500-600 combo now. Shiroha finds another chain miss. The score gap is potentially going to get closer as they get 3 high combos, but it's too close to the end.
The 2 FCs from Secret Box and Rairiku really doing work here for Australia, keeping this lead intact. And that's going to be 1-1. A little closer at the end there, but Australia still with a pretty comfortable victory. 2 FCs to just the 1. Apraxia with the best play in the lobby, 99.49 accuracy. FC, no slider missed even, but not able to carry the United States through that with those early breaks that they suffered.
Apraxia is definitely a player that when you think of double time and speed, it's going to be his forte. And I mean, he showed that right here, right now with 99.49 on that map. That's very impressive accuracy across the board. I'm pretty sure it was the only 99% as well.
Yes, everyone else in the 98s and 97s, I believe, pretty much across the board. Just a couple of ill-timed breaks, really, in the United States. So both teams putting their best foot forward on their first pick. Australia looking very, very strong on that DT. We'll get to see tied ups, 1-1 United States with their second pick here to come. We'll see what they decide to go with. If we see another mod pick, or if we enter. Okay, we're going to see another mod pick. United States is going to be quickly exhausting the Hard Rock pool. It's going to be Crystal Illusion. This is the CS 6.5, so the Osu for Ants pick right here.
It's so interesting when you see a team ban Hard Rock and then just pick the rest of them. But I mean, obviously that Hard Rock pick is more so a target ban, and maybe just a map that they don't particularly want to play. They are different styles, so there is that to it as well. But typically when you see a team ban something, you know it's like that entire mod bracket is a general weakness. But you can never say that when it comes to the United States. So they're going to be looking to exhaust Hard Rock this early. And it's going to be interesting to see how both of these teams do fare. Obviously, as you mentioned, last week, Australia didn't do too hot on the CS 6.5. This is a bit of a different map. I know a couple of players are familiar with it from community tournaments. So it's going to be interesting to see how they both perform.
Yeah, the USA, I think, just kind of trying to lean into their strengths in the more, I don't want to say technical, but kind of the more mechanically demanding maps in terms of the things like the finger controller, the small circle aim. You know, you saw Australia getting the aim map banned away from them, winning the, you know, kind of stream burst map. whereas the United States going with finger control, going with small circles, both in hard rock. So clearly kind of delineating their skill sets from one another, I think, especially with Australia even banning Nomad 6, which is, again, kind of that more awkward, gimmicky type of pick. I think you can already, just with the bans in the first couple of picks, kind of see the divide a little bit between what the two teams' goals are in this map pool with their own selections.
And as you mentioned, this map is pretty mechanically demanding, so definitely a smart choice from the United States. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not it does backfire on them or not, because both of these teams are definitely capable of playing this map very well.
Yeah, and we'll get to see that right now as we start it up. Map number 3. Fiery Rage, Toy, Idki, and Vaxay for the USA. Jordan the Bear, Grand Senpai for Australia, alongside Secret Box and Monkey Atso staying in for this one. We'll see how they fare.
After seeing Vaxay's slight underperformance on the last map, you have to wonder whether or not that's going to be the same case on Hard Rock. Could be a completely different story, maybe he wasn't quite warmed up for double time despite him being expected for a map like that.
Yeah, I mean, you see Vaxay coming in for a DT, you just expect an FC, like, no matter the round, no matter the map. So we'll see if he bounces back from that, as the early break coming in here from Secret Box within the first 200 combo, so not going to have a huge effect. And there's Vaxay breaking once again. So he's going to be missing a couple times early in both his first two maps, but Grand Senpai and Fiery Rage going to trade another break, as well as Secret Box. So it's just Toy and Idki FCing for the United States. Jordan the Bear breaking his full combo, so only Monkey Atso now left with the FC for Australia. 1 FC, to 1, as Idki finds a break as well. This one, a lot of players struggling quite a bit here. Very across-the-board accuracy. Toy over 99%, Jordan the Bear at 90%. Monkey Atso at 86% despite the FC.
Yeah, you see a lot of combo drops from players, but the big definitive difference here is the fact that the accuracies from the Australian side are so low, and this is something that I think that the United States kind of wants to target out of Australia. They are not a country that is very well known for having the most impressive accuracy on a lot of finger control heavy maps, or just low BPM maps in general. I mean, they'll usually excel on anything that's well above 200 BPM. But anything that falls short of that, sometimes it's going to be a hit or miss situation depending on the map. And we're obviously seeing that in full force right now. The United States are running away with Toy. Toy just missing, as I mentioned him, but I was going to say 99% full combo. Monkey Atso does end up losing that full combo. Secret Box did end up recovering, but the United States is going to be running away with their pick by a very convincing margin of around 1.4 million points.
Yeah, that is, like we said, you're talking about the accuracy kind of through that map, and we talked about kind of the small mechanical skills versus kind of just the big raw aim. What favors who? Vaxay finishing off with the S rank versus Monkey Atso with the B rank. The accuracy difference and the finger control difference between these teams kind of standing out pretty starkly here on these first couple picks, as United States really dominating both of those hard rocks that were in a kind of similar vein, where they required, small circle aim and the finger control.
Toy with the 3x100 really shows the difference in terms of accuracy on a map like this, though. He is very, very strong when it comes to a lot of these small circle size picks, so despite having the one miss, still a very, very impressive play.
Toy is that, we all know what Vaxay can do on your Grand Finals pool of seeing maps that nobody can even think of coming close to. But Toy is the kind of guy that a lot of these maps you can just lean on, that is going to put up a really strong play on any kind of map. He'll play just about anything in any pool, and he'll come up with plays like that pretty frequently, and that's such a useful thing to be able to lean on, just having that anchor on your team who can lead you through just about any type of pick. Very, very big asset to have. Australia going to come out with a Nomad pick here. It's going to be our first Nomad pick. Nomad number 5, Basi, Owari, Tsumugishi, Mono, which is the high BPM Nomad pick.
It's another situation where we're seeing a team that's choosing to opt for a lot of the speedier picks in the pool. Obviously, we saw that present in the South Korea versus Japan match, That was just mental, just seeing them pretty much pick out all the double time and then go for the no mod speed as well. You couldn't find a map pick that was below 200 BPM for so long. Not to mention they were also evenly matched on it, so I'm expecting a similar result again here. However, the United States did have a slight underperformance on the first double time that was played, but definitely looking to pick back up from that one.
Yeah, and this is kind of going in the order we would expect, I think, a little bit. It's, like you said, Australia just once again really leaning heavily into the high BPM picks here. This is largely about the bursts and just being able to play a very consistently difficult 250 BPM map. So we'll see how the roster, if they can replicate the success of that DT. You have Lunar's Grand, Secret Box, and Rairiku. So, kind of again, we're seeing a lot of these new players coming in for Australia throughout this tournament and having a big impact. You're seeing, 3 out of 4 members of a roster for a map are of that new set on this Australian team. United States, I think, basically playing the roster you would expect for a map like this, where you have, Apraxia, you have Tony, who are known for speed, you have Vaxe, who's known for everything, and he is pretty much able to play anything, but especially known for a stream type map. So both teams with expected lineups. We're going to see Shiroha, Dumi coming in. So there's just going to be two new and old players.
I must admit that the roster from Australia is a bit of a surprise to me, seeing as this map is kind of similar to the early double time, and we're seeing a bit of a roster change, obviously with Lunaires and Grand Senpai stepping in for this one, but could be a case of some of the aim test in this, and maybe just the fact that they are a little bit more comfortable on a map like this. Seeing a somewhat similar lineup from the United States to that double time, except with the addition of Idki this time around instead of Digital Hypno.
Yeah, I think Idki is who I would expect for this particular map, with his skill set being what it is. Early break from Rairiku here, also accuracy drop from him. But yeah, I think it's kind of the expected roster, I would say, relatively speaking, for the US, so we'll see how they can perform. And Australia, meanwhile, looking to avoid an early break point here. They're going to fall behind a bit early on in both accuracy, as the United States has three SS ranks through the first 300 combo, as well as that combo difference of about 140 from those FCs back to Rairiku.
This is without a doubt, you'd expect a map like this. The United States always going to have high accuracy on something that, I guess, to them, this map is going to feel very simple, I would say. This is obviously meant to be just a speed test, and I think there's nothing mechanically intensive about it. So it should be a walk in the park for them, but it's just going to be a case of whether or not they hold on to those combos. So far, Australia matching them, except for Rairiku having the early miss.
We do see Shiroha. I feel like I just want to call him Dumi, man. Holding on to the SS, and this is sub OD 9, so accuracy should be pretty high across the board. But that is going to be a break from Lunaires, so that is going to be 2 of the FCs now gone from Australia. Still 4 for the USA. All their SSs are now gone, but big combo advantage with Lunaires, and now Rairiku breaking once again. Grand Senpai and Shiroha gonna try to keep the team alive, but it's going to be pretty tough now. It's a big combo difference.
We're going to need to see 3 full combo drops from the United States, and that's not likely on a map like this at all. They are looking so dominant right now. Holding on to 4 full combos. Is it going to be a 4-way FC for them? Lunaires finds another break. That's the last thing that Australia needs right now.
Especially as we're going to come into this slower part here. USA is just going to be able to continue to build their lead. Dumi does finally hit his first 100, Idki at 1x100 as well. The United States, the lowest accuracy for the US is 99.5. I mean, that says a lot right there. When they all have FCs and they all have accuracy that high, it's very tough to compete with that for anyone except an absolutely elite team.
The only person who can possibly match that at the moment is Shiroha from the Australian side. I mean, if every player on the Australian side were to match full combos, they would most likely still lose just because of accuracy. Grand Senpai finds a miss on the 1/3 section, and I think that's going to say it for Australia.
Shiroha missing as well. This one's all over. I don't think there's really any way for Australia to come back at this point.
definitely a pick that seems to have backfired on them. The US just looking so dominant on this.
This could legitimately at this point become a 4-way FC for the USA. As ridiculous as that is, they are just unstoppable at this point as we come into the last section. Will they be able to hold on to this 4-way? Looks like they might just. This would be, I think, one of the best performances we've seen of the entire day from any team. And here we go into the outro. And they do. That is a 4-way FC from Team United States. 1x100 from Idke. Apraxia, that's a troll. I don't care. That's a 4-way. Apraxia literally trolled the ending, dropped the last slider tick.
A technical 4-way FC.
That was an intentional miss. That does not count. That's a 4-way FC. I don't care. That's absolutely outrageous from the United States. 1.7 million point win, and that's back-to-back points that they've now won by a combined almost 3 million points. USA getting rolling here early on in this one.
Yeah, very, very solid performance from them overall. And I mean, even if Australia happened to match 4 full combos, they still would have lost that pick just because of accuracy. They had such dominant accuracy on that map overall.
And now, you're Australia, you see that happen, and there's two kind of reactions you can have in a situation like this. You can kind of rock back on your heels as if you just got punched in the face, like, holy cow, they just did that. Or you can say, hey, it's the United States, they were going to pull off something like that eventually, and just keep your head down and do your best going forward. And hopefully it'll be the latter of those two options.
Yeah, I mean, when your pick kind of backfires on you in such a way where you know that even if you full combo, you still would have lost. That's just a slap in the face. But we're going to be getting into the next pick, which is going to be Hidden 3, going for a little bit more of a somewhat speed test. It's a 224 BPM map with a lot of burst streams, fairly dense as well. So United States looking to dive into Hidden, try something a little bit different.
In the USA, I think, known for just being a really strong hidden team, and so this is going to be a pretty good pick for them. This is another one that, like, I could legitimately see them 4-waying, or at least 4-way FCing until the ending, which takes that diff spike, I think, a little bit with those streams. Australia, though, I think more than capable. I mean, they've got the skill set to be able to compete on any map, so we'll see if they can kind of try and get back into this one after 2 pretty dominant victories by the United States. Looks like we might be seeing Apraxia, vv516115071, joined by Toy this time. Jordan the Bear, Grand Senpai, Shiroha, and Secret Box for the Aussie side. As you said, 224 BPM, normal circle size, CS4, just 2 minutes, 10 seconds long. But plenty of places that if you break focus or your fingers don't work quite properly or you don't hold a buzz slider, quite long enough, you can find some breaks. Got to be careful at all points.
Definitely going to be interesting to see a couple players as well in particular. I know for a fact that Toy and Jordan the Bear might have a little bit of trouble with the burst, depending. But I mean, it's got to be one of those, like, depending on the day situations for them. I think obviously when it comes to a match, they should be more than warm enough for something like this.
And here we go, underway with some little tricky triplets, buzz sliders, bursts. Another one, kind of along the lines of that first hard rock that we saw in that regard, with the added difficulty of throwing hidden on. Jordan the Bear going to be the first to break, but he's going to trade with Toy. So somewhat surprising miss from the American player. Not expecting to see him missing in too many hiddens. But it's a match, so team's going to stay pretty even. As has been the case, United States going to keep their accuracy lead, mostly based on Jordan missing in most of that stream, dropping down several percent at one go. Well, breaks from Apraxia and Toy. Those buzz sliders can trip you up so easily, as Grand Senpai finds out as well. This is It's going to be Australia with a lead. They still do have the FCs on Shiroha and Secret Box. Jordan the Bear with the longer combo, and I've cursed it. I'm sorry, Doomy. It's all my fault. Grand Senpai breaking as well. Lead goes right back over to the United States as Vaxe and Idki continue their FCs. This one's a little bit back and forth. We're seeing quite a few misses.
I mean, typically when a lot of people talk about Idki, they don't expect him to be in for a hidden, but he's surprisingly good at hidden. I mean, we've learned that in the previous World Cups. He's just shown so much dominance, despite barely ever displaying any signs of playing the mod off, you know, like on stream or off stream, anything. But when it comes to tournaments, he is always there and able to play it if need be.
I remember back in spring during Squeegee Spring Cup, him carrying a couple of hidden picks and just being amazed because, like you said, you don't see him playing much hidden, but he can come into the tournaments and really clean up on hidden picks. And it is his FC along with Vaxe's FCs that are giving the United States a 500,000 point lead in this one as we're coming into that last difficult section. Looks like they
does happen to find another miss. Grand Senpai and Jordan the Bear as well, but going to be seeing the United States take that one with 2 full combos to 1.
Vaxe Idki combined 11 100s for the two of them. Secret Box, very solid accuracy FC of his own, but just the slider break S-Strikes are both toying Apraxia. Meanwhile, Jordan and Grand Senpai both having a little bit of trouble throughout that pick. And, you know, coming into this tournament, right, you expect Vaxe and Idki to be 2 of the key members, 2 of the MVP candidates for the entire thing, and coming in and showing why on maps like that, where they just put their carry pants on, give the United States a 4-1 lead. And Australia really needs this next pick.
Yeah, they're going to be... Those 2 players are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the later pools or the later stages even. We've seen how well they've played in, you know, solo tournaments, community tournaments. They're just... It's going to be terrifying for any team watching this right now to see performances like that pretty much transition into the late game.
Now, if you're Australia, which you kind of are, what do you try to go to here? What pick feels maybe worth trying out that's comfortable for you?
I think maybe going for the No Mod 1 or the Double Time 1 would probably be the best options, Despair of Valkyria or Sakimura Renka. Seeing as they did perform pretty well on Magica, and I think they probably should dive into speed once again, try it out. I mean, as much as the last pick did backfire on them, it is a bit of a different map when you're playing it as a no mod pick compared to a double time pick. Obviously there's the approach rate to consider and just the style of map as well. Despair of Valkyria is not a bad idea, seeing as the United States did ban Escape, but it isn't quite the same map, so it's really hard to say whether or not that would be a smart choice. The United States definitely very capable of playing it, for sure. But they're going to be going for Koei. Something a little bit different, testing the United States on 10.3.
And this is... I think if they were going to pick DT, like you were saying, I would have expected Sakimori Renka before I expected Koei here. But they choose to go with that 10.3, very modern, the only really modern style DT pick here. Very centered around this like slider aim with a couple of jump sections. You know, as we've said, they do have some good DT players on that side. I think this is one where they really wish they had Yugiri, because this would be right in his wheelhouse. But they will have Shiroha, they will have Secret Box, they will have Monkey Atso. I'm guessing Jordan is probably kind of the fill here, but he does play DT very well himself, so very strong roster regardless.
Yeah, if it doesn't involve a burst, he's definitely capable of playing this pretty much the same as the rest of the roster. As you mentioned as well, without the appearance of Ugadi this match, that's been pretty rough for them so far. He would definitely be stepping in for a lot of these maps, but this is going to be their lineup, and I think it is a very solid lineup for a map like this. It should be pretty fine overall. I think this is not a bad pick from them. But it's going to be interesting to see how the United States does fare on 10.3. Obviously, we saw a very dominant performance on one of Australia's picks. Are we going to see it happen again?
So we're going to have Apraxia, we're going to have Tony, we're going to have Idki, we're going to have Vaxe. So, the DC roster from the United States. This is, I I think this is one of the closest in terms of map style and matchup roster wise. This is one of the closest maps that we might see, because I think both teams is a pick that they can feel pretty comfortable about. USA gonna once again take that early accuracy advantage. Jordan falling down to about 96%. Shiroha and Monkiatsu both in the 97s. Not gonna have the biggest effect with it being so early on. So we're just gonna look to see how well they can maintain their combo, as this is a pretty consistent map throughout. You'll see this style of mapping through the entire thing. That is gonna be a break from Monkiatsu though. I'll give USA a bit more of an advantage here with 4 full combos to 3.
Surprisingly, no one breaking on that kickslider section as well. Typically a place where you would expect a few breaks coming in every now and then. But players holding on pretty strong, Monkiatsu being the only player to have missed so far for the Australian side. Definitely a lot of room for error on this map. The Secret Box also follows up with another miss. Not looking good for Australia on their own pick. Seeing a sort of similar situation to the Number 5 pick.
Yeah, USA is just such a scary team, both with their raw skill and their consistency. It's going to be a break for Vaxei, their first FC drop, but Monkiatsu and Shiroha both missing at that exact same point in time. Meanwhile, Tony, Apraxia, Idki all still holding their full combos. The United States going to really run ahead with about a 700,000 point lead here. Just the last third of the map to come. A quiet section into the last Ki.
Yeah, 700,000 points ahead. Jordan the Bear, the only FC, and not only that, but it's also a very low accuracy FC from him. Mashing up against 3. It's pretty much looking like this is going to go all in the United States' way. There is no comeback potential at all from this point onwards. Once again, another situation where they're showing dominance, but very surprising to see Vaxei miss on such maps. I mean, they're calling him in early, but you have to wonder whether or not he's just one of the players that sort of stands out on a lot of higher star rating maps.
Yeah, I think Vaxei, the biggest difference you see with Vaxei is not going to be on a quarterfinals pool where there are many people that can play a lot of these maps, as we do see in the United States with their 3-way FC. Perfect combos from both Tony and Apraxia, Idki dropping a couple slider ends. But the biggest difference you're going to see with Vaxei is going to be on the finals pools, the grand finals pools, where things are 7 stars and up. That's where he stands out, and he can FC things that nobody else can and put up ridiculous scores that no one else can. So wouldn't be quite as worried this round, because you got to think he's not like fully locked in, because he knows that he can play well and he's going to keep up with anyone without as much effort maybe as a later round.
Yeah, definitely could be a different, type of practice, I guess, depending on the round. Might not be taking this round as seriously in terms of practice, but obviously when it gets later on, I'm sure that we'll expect a lot more from him. But a really rough choice. I mean, that was a pick that kind of backfired on them. But, I mean, to match the United States, they would have had to have seen 4 full combos, because they didn't have the accuracy, and Vaxei was the only player to have missed for the United States, so they would have had to have seen 4 full combos on a map like Koei, and that's not an easy task. I mean, the United States didn't manage to do it, so that kind of speaks volumes on how hard that map actually is. Very close.
It's so scary to have that thought that you have to like at least 3-way, if not 4-way maps, just to have a chance. And that's what it means to play against the United States at a round like this. You
have to play with that mentality. That mentality of just knowing that the enemy, the opposing team is just gonna, 3-way full combo minimum most of the time, if not 4-way. And then you also have to take accuracy into consideration. So like, you're stressing about all sorts of factors within this tournament match. You're just hoping that they're gonna miss.
It's like, playing against 2 years ago, playing against the Warriors or something in the NBA. Like, it's not just enough to play great offense. You also have to play incredible defense. You also have to have, just perfect court vision, and you have to cover everybody, because anyone can pop off on any map and will. And the United States is just doing that. And this could be our final map of this match. It's going to be Tokyo's Starlight in the free mod pool. Looks like we're going to have 1 hidden, 1 hard rock on Toy and Fiery Ridge. Australia overmodding here. 2 Hiddens, Grand Senpai, and Lunars with the Hard Rock on Secret Box. The other 3 with the Nomods.
2 players who are definitely very capable of playing Hidden. I think this isn't a bad choice as well, seeing as, you know, if the United States are picking this, they're probably expecting at least, you know, a 3 to 4-way FC, so maybe going for the overmod strat might not be the worst thing as well if they have been struggling a little bit with accuracy battles.
And I think this is again going back to that United States concept of kind of picking those tricky, mechanically demanding picks where there's some really tough patterns. You see an early break there from Fiery Rage giving the lead over to Australia early on. There's a lot of places you can miss in this one, and it never lets up. Once again, seeing that kind of style of map coming into the pool. Vaxay and Secret Box trading even. Lunar is missing as well, so 2 FCs to 2 now.
Australia with the slight advantage, but the United States with the slight combo advantage, especially with Fire Rage on Hard Rock. Secret Box did drop a fair bit of accuracy in that miss. It's going to be going back in favor of the United States just because of the combo advantage and accuracy advantages. But it's not over yet. They're still holding on, getting into another hard section of the map coming out shortly. Lunars does find an early break right before it.
That's a bad place to miss, as you do see Ryu on his first map of this match, holding onto the FC. Toy with the hidden full combo. Lunar's dropping an entire pattern there. That's going to be rough on his accuracy and his score. Grand Senpai missing as well. I think the United States is now just going to run away with this one as we reach the last quarter.
Looks like it's going to be all said and done for Australia unless they find a miracle in the breaks from the United States, but it's not looking likely. They are looking so strong on this pick. As you mentioned, Ryu making his first appearance in this match, but he's going to be one of those players you kind of see for a lot more of these niche picks. Fire Rage does end up finding another miss, but the chain misses from Australian side with Lunars and Grand Senpai are going to seal the deal. The United States will be taking this one 6-1 against Australia.
The FC, I believe they're from Toy, maybe dropped a slider end or 2 at most. Leading the way, Vaxay with the 1 miss, 99% accuracy. The USA doing USA things. They are, you know, they want to exert their will in every match that they play. And I think they did that with the 5 straight maps in this one, just looking absolutely dominant. And they advance on to the next round here.
Australia, we're riding quite a high, especially after beating South Korea. It's going to be interesting to see how they do bounce back from this one, though, because, you know, it's always rough taking a loss, especially when you're feeling so good about yourself and how you've been playing. I don't doubt that they're disappointed in their performances. I mean, I think like they played really, really well, very solid on a lot of maps. But they are going to drop down into the losers bracket, so it's not over for them yet.
Yeah, and so speaking of that, right? Australia drops down the losers bracket. They will await a matchup that I think is probably going to be a little favored toward them. It's going to be the winner of tomorrow's match between Italy and Hong Kong that they will face. I think that in a week's time will be a matchup that Australia can definitely win to progress forward in the bracket, with Poland looking a little bit vulnerable last week. Meanwhile, United States going to advance into the winners semifinals, and they will get either fellow North Americans in Team Canada, or they will face Russia. And that'll be a great semifinal regardless of who wins that second quarterfinal tomorrow between Canada and Russia.
So there is actually an error on the screen right now. You're currently seeing Oz facing off against the winner of China, Poland. It'll actually be Italy versus Hong Kong, so should have that fixed up at some point. But yeah, they will be facing the winner of Italy versus Hong Kong.
Oh, that's fun. Brackets are hard. Either way, I think actually Italy versus Hong Kong is almost a better matchup for them, I would probably argue. I think I probably ended up saying both because I looked at the screen after I looked and I was like, I don't know if I'm right or wrong now. But I think both these teams will have matchups that next week they can be successful in. But meanwhile, we're gonna have some more really solid matches the rest of this weekend. This was our only match for the night block here. I know we're gonna have Korea versus France starting off the morning block, which has a whole bunch of matches in it. South Korea versus France, I think, is gonna be 12 UTC, followed by the aforementioned Italy versus Hong Kong, or Brazil versus Indonesia. I'm not actually sure which will be on stream. And then we'll have the rest of our quarterfinals kind of tomorrow afternoon, as you can see on screen. United Kingdom versus Taiwan, Romania versus Germany, and Canada versus Russia. So definitely some great matches coming up later on that I think everybody should be excited for, because those are going to be fun.
Yeah, a lot of exciting matches obviously to come today. Very close matches as well. I think Italy-Hong Kong is a really solid match. And obviously when either one of them progress to face Australia, it's going to be a friendly matchup between the two of them as well. I know a few players that know each other, so it's going to be good to see, some friendly rivalries happening in the later brackets. Korea versus France as well is another solid match. We did see both of those two teams perform very well in their matches. Brazil, Indonesia, solid. Very, very solid. They're two teams which I would say are pretty much evenly matched in terms of skill sets. And then, UK, Taiwan, crazy match between them. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Taiwan this year, and I hope that the UK are not one of those teams. I hope they're doing their practice, because they're going to need it against them. China, Poland, another situation where I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on China this year. I think China actually have a really good chance of potentially knocking Poland out. So it's going to be interesting to see if we see some sort of upset happening for that one. And then you've got Romania versus Germany, which is just going to be two powerhouse teams going at it. We saw Romania once again being the Poland killers. Are they going to be able to transition that and knock Germany down? And Canada versus Russia, another matchup which we've seen multiple times in the previous years. We've seen actually Canada beat Russia the first time in the winners bracket last year, I think it was, and then they lost to Russia in the losers bracket later on. So these two teams facing on a pool like this, which is fairly difficult, going to be interesting to see how they match up, especially seeing as there's been a bit of a roster change and two powerhouse teams just going at it.
Yeah, so as you said, a lot of great matches to come. We hope to, of course, see everyone here for a bunch of those matchups later on to support their favorite teams, support their countries. That is going to do it here for us tonight. GG's out to the United States. Congratulations on winning, and best of luck in the next matches, semifinals and in the losers bracket respectively, following that great performance. So I think that's about it here. I've been this one guy, and he's been Kano.
Thank you for watching, guys, and we will see you next time in about roughly 7 hours from now.
Have a wonderful evening or morning or day. We'll catch you guys later.
so I've come, God. So I've come, God.